The guy who's boring you is not toxic. Why ghost him? The guy with the small penis is not toxic. Why ghost him? And that's ultimately what this video is about. We're going to look at the wounded behavior of ghosting and how that continues to perpetuate a narrative that no longer serves us. Let's get into it.
A person who ghosts is somebody who emotionally is compromised. They're basically underdeveloped emotionally, and they're exercising a form of emotional abuse. And I know that sounds really harsh, but think of what a ghoster does. You're in communication, you're building relationship, and boom, they sever it. It's a massive, out of nowhere, no explanation abandonment. That's abusive.
Ghosting a lot of times really speaks to someone's emotional intelligence as well as communication skills. It speaks to your level of empathy and the ability to see beyond the first person perspective. I feel like in the dating pool, we just keep going around and around in this cycle of woundedness. So we're wounded and we move from that wounded place and we wound others and we trigger the wounds that already exist in them. And then they act from that wounded place. And it's just like this turbulent cycle that eventually someone has to break free from. Otherwise, we keep perpetuating the same bullshit.
Ghosting is ultimately about control. It's a form of control. It is a form of digital silent treatment. That if I can go quiet on you and not speak to you and block you and remove you from my world, then I don't have to deal with any emotional discomfort that explaining myself to you may involve. So I avoid and bypass emotional discomfort, yours or mine, and just cut you off. That's the essence of ghosting. It is a form of ultimately emotional control and manipulation when people do that. The thing about ghosting is it's worse because if I ghost you and cut you off with no explanation, I leave you to try and invent an explanation. And I don't care what that might be, whether it's accurate or not, whether it's the truth or it's worse than the truth, and your invented idea is more damaging actually than what I did do it for. It is no care about what you put into that space. So what happens with ghosting is it feels like deliberate emotional cruelty because I leave you to figure it out.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Amanda Haynes. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you're feeling up to it, go ahead and subscribe if you like the vibe and would like to join the tribe. You know, it's so interesting because I know a lot of people will say, well, if I ghost you, like I didn't really care about you, and so I don't really care about how it makes you feel. And it's just this calloused stance that we have. It really makes you wonder like where that disconnect happened along the line between me being decent towards someone because that's my character, regardless of the transaction that's happening in this situation. It just screams woundedness. But ultimately, I agree with his stance that ghosting is a form of controlling the outcome. It's manipulating the situation to my benefit, that benefit being I don't have to emotionally engage with this. And so we just really have to ask ourselves, like, where am I coming from in my behavior? Why is it I feel the need to ghost this person instead of offering just a little bit more than that?
I've been ghosted. No, he told you he wasn't interested and just didn't text you back. There's a big difference. But to be ghosted implies, hey, 8:30, where are you? Hello? Call. To be ghosted is awful. It triggers abandonment instantly. And for somebody to ghost somebody is not taking consideration of the fact of how much they matter to that person. And to pull that away from them is psychotic. And to think that you don't have any accountability for the people that you show up for in your life and the things that you say to those people, it's twisted.
I think too, it's important to have an understanding of exactly what ghosting is, right? So ghosting being, like he said, someone's reaching out to you and there's complete cut off of communication and contact. But I wonder what the trigger is that happens before the need to ghost occurs. Is it that someone is being disrespectful? Is it that someone is displaying toxic tendencies? Is it that someone isn't meeting the standards that you set? But outside of the context of a toxic situation, is ghosting really necessary? Not all situations call for that. Let's keep going.
The first time a man does something you don't like, whether he says something inappropriate, he doesn't text you back for hours, he disappears for a day or two, block him. Don't let these men waste your time.
I don't know if I can say that I agree with that, because the first time someone does something is not necessarily an indicator of how they will continue to be, especially after you've voiced your boundaries and your standards. Based on what she's saying, there's no room for being a human being and making any mistakes. And honestly, what a tightrope that is to walk. Like, I can't imagine how much pressure would be there where it's not okay to make a mistake. But we have to check, like, where these thoughts and feelings and advice that we come up with come from, because this young lady's advice speaks wounded. So when someone doesn't text you back for hours, the fact that you notice says a lot for where your attention is. When we meet someone we like, they become the sun in our world and we become a satellite that revolves around theirs. So not getting a text back for hours becomes a focal point and an extreme issue when they become the center of our world. And I think that that statement alone shows that. Not reaching out for a day or two. When you're just dating and getting to know someone, why is that a problem? Like, there should be so much focus and attention on yourself and your inner world and the things that are going on for you, that someone not reaching out for a day or two isn't enough to cut the cord. So for example, I'm in the most conscious, healthy relationship I've ever experienced in my entire life. And in the beginning of us getting to know one another, he didn't reach out for like 3 days one time. Did I notice? Yes. But was that a deal breaker for me? No, because that offered me an opportunity to go in and say, this is triggering for me. Why am I so triggered right now? What story is my ego creating around what's happening right now? Is this actually true? He's not thinking about me. Is this true? We make up all these stories. He hasn't reached out for hours. He must not be thinking about me. He must not care. I'm clearly not important to him. He must be seeing other people. These are thoughts that actually happen in women's minds, right? And we create these stories and then believe them and then end up Xing people out that weren't necessarily toxic or bad for us. It's because we can't see through our own trauma. We're so wounded in so many different areas. We're walking around with mother wounds, father wounds, feminine, masculine wounds, however you want to put it. But these wounds that came from our caregivers in childhood, and we're plastering this same story on every romantic partner that comes into our lives. So then we wonder, why do I keep attracting emotionally unavailable men? Why do I keep attracting women who want to save me? And then instead of looking at our wounds, we're projecting and we just move from person to person. We move from marriage to marriage and we think that this next person will be it. We think that a better half is something to find because we don't feel whole inside. So we're looking for our savior. We're looking for our mother and our father in our romantic partner, when all it takes is just going in and looking at our pain and looking at our wounds and our triggers and healing, and then allowing into our space what it is we attract from that state of wholeness, which is typically whole people. We attract secure people. We attract conscious people. We attract conscious relationships. But we can't attract into our experience something like that until we become that. Because again, we do not see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. We attract to us who we are. All I'm saying is we got to start looking inside. Let's keep going.
Ladies, if his energy is anything less than vivaciously enthusiastic about you, dump him. Men go after what they want, so if a man wants you, he will do anything reasonably within his power to have you, and to make sure you know it. If a man truly wants you, you don't even have to like him back or even be nice to him for him to want to show you his affection. We all see how men act for women who don't even give them the time of day, all the DMs, the gifts, the texts, and you want to accept less from a man who claims to want you? The way I could never. Like I said, if a man wants you, you will know it. You will not have to analyze his texts or message the group chat, try to figure out what his Instagram captions mean. The minute a man got you doing all that, you're doing too much and it's time to go. Matter of fact, next time you meet a low effort man, disappear on him immediately. It's the honeymoon phase and this is the vibe he's bringing when he's supposed to be showing you his best self. I'm sorry, girl, but that man don't like you. And he don't deserve an explanation as to why you're gone. I bet if he took 2 seconds to think, he'd know why. Honestly, he probably won't even care because he didn't want you for real anyway. I know all that sounds harsh, but think about any time you have given a man a chance that was not enthusiastic about you. How did that end? You were basically the one pursuing him and he broke up with you anyway, didn't he? Ladies, love yourself because this ish could get ugly. That's why it's is get money. We must not be in such desperate need for a relationship that we're going to take just whatever crap gets flung our way.
I feel like even towards the end, it became like a tit for tat because her response was basically recapping what it's like when it gets done to you. But the thing is if your character is always dependent on other people and how they treat you, there's no solid foundation in your character. My personal opinion, I see character as I'm not going to let someone dump on me, but I'm not going to let someone pull me out of character. So if someone is being ugly towards me, first of all, I'm not going to internalize it and make it about me. Take nothing personal, right? So if they're having a bad day, I'm going to let that pull me out of my great day? Absolutely not. I'm going to observe and not absorb. I'm going to look at them and go, wow, they must be having a bad day. I might even say that because some people just lack self-awareness. So I might be like, are you having a bad day? And maybe from there, they kind of snap out of whatever mood they're in. But I'm not going to be an asshole to someone who's being an asshole to me. I just can't allow that much of a dip in my vibration these days because coming back up is entirely too taxing. And honestly, dropping that low is entirely too taxing. So I'm not with the tit for tat. I'm not with wounding people just because I'm wounded. I'm not with hurting people because I got hurt. And there's a saying, hurt people hurt people. That's so true. But once you come to a place where you're not interested in perpetuating more harm in the world, you start moving different. And that tit for tat shit goes out the window. That was number one. Number two is let's normalize getting to know people. We tend to jump from I just met you and I'm attracted to you to you're potentially boyfriend material and I want to see you act like a boyfriend. There's no in between that's just let's just get to know each other. Let's get to see if I even like you as a friend before trying to make you my boyfriend, right? I think that that's one thing that in this relationship, one of the many things that I've done right this go round was I got to know my partner and he became my friend first. He would be the one that I would reach out to when I was going through some shit, even when I was still going through some shit with my last relationship. He was the one that I was processing things with. And we were honestly processing together. But normalize getting to know someone. Quit trying to jump into a relationship so fast. Slow down, get to know their name, get to know how they move outside of their comfort zone. There's so much to get to know before you kind of decide that you're bringing them on as a pseudo boyfriend. I'm letting you try on the boyfriend shoe. I think we're jumping way too fast, way too soon. And I think we need to slow it down and reel it back in. And this is ultimately why there's so much upset and anger in the dating world is because it's I kind of put you in this boyfriend role and you're not really fitting the part. And now I feel offended. And now I feel the need to ghost you. It's just where's the humanity? It just doesn't have to be so harsh all the time. But the reason it's so harsh is because we're out here moving wounded and we're taking shit personally. And we're looking for external validation when we should be internally validating ourselves. So if someone is giving you low effort, if you already feel whole inside, it's not an insult to injury. It just becomes what is, and you move from a state of, I don't really think this is in alignment, but it was nice to meet you, or it wasn't, or I don't really think this is in alignment, so I'm going to bow out, and it was interesting meeting you. Like, it doesn't have to be so much animosity all the time. Like, the animosity is the triggered, wounded part of you. That shit is not necessary. Let's not normalize ghosting anyone unless it's a toxic situation or you've already told them and they won't stop reaching out. This narrative just is not gonna work anymore. Let's keep going.
You can ghost a toxic person. I don't give a fuck what nobody say. Why would you ghost him? That person is abusive. You can ghost him. That person is disrespectful. You can ghost him. You done already had 3,700 conversations with this man, and now you expected to have another one when it's most dangerous part of the relationship, which is the breakup. In abusive relationships, the most dangerous part from a woman is the time she decides to separate from that man. I don't ever fault a woman for saying they got a cold turkey a man, because it's probably a reason you feel like you had to do that. Protect yourself, queen. You're more concerned about protecting a mother feelings that didn't care about yours while you was in a relationship than you do about yours. Your safety. You can ghost a toxic person and quit feeling sorry for it. Because guess what? That person didn't feel sorry for you when they was putting their hands on you. That person didn't feel sorry for you when they was disrespecting you and calling you out your name. That person didn't feel sorry when they was putting you through bullshit and cheating. So you shouldn't feel sorry when you got to ghost them, because guess what? They already know why you leaving.
And ultimately, this was my point. Like, you got to do what you got to do, right? With a toxic person, I've experienced this same situation, abusive, emotionally, physically, tried the whole nice about it approach, right? Didn't work. Wasn't trying to hear it. So you have to do what you have to do. But ghosting toxic people and ghosting people who are not toxic is not the same thing. Like, your level of accountability for humanity, for treating someone decently, comes down to what you define as toxic. Toxic, in my opinion, is thrown around entirely too frivolously, because not everyone out here is toxic, okay? And if you keep attracting toxic people, you really have some shit you need to look at. The guy who's boring you is not toxic. Why ghost him? The guy with the small penis is not toxic. Why ghost him? Like, we use ghosting as an out because we don't know how to have difficult conversations, or we're just so far removed from caring about someone else's feelings that we're unbothered by how our actions ripple over into harming other people. So my stance on it is ghosting is only appropriate when it's appropriate. Those times being when it's a toxic individual. Otherwise, why are we not using these tough conversations as like opportunities for self-growth and healing? That's all I'm saying. Well, y'all, that's pretty much all we have for today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Go ahead and drop a comment below. I want to know if you've ever been ghosted and what your experience was like, or if you've ever been the ghoster and how you actually feel about that. Go ahead and send this video to someone who would appreciate a little more information. I don't know. Share this with your girlfriends, your guy friends. Let me know what y'all think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.